How you doing? Sandesh here. I'm going to be reading from an article on Tech for Gamers, and I like this already. It's basically, gamers conclude ray tracing is still not necessary for games 7 years after its introduction, and I fully agree with this. I'm going to get into it now. Um, Nvidia's introduction of ray tracing in 2018 was the next big leap for gaming, completely overhauling gaming visuals with real time reflections and lighting. However, since then, its implementation has often been for the worse, with too many drawbacks for a higher cost. In a new poll, the majority of gamers disagreed that ray tracing should be necessary for video games and thought it wasn't the best bang for the buck. With ray tracing increasingly enforced in modern releases, developers must realize that the technique is far from becoming standard, giving gamers discontent. 67.3% of gamers decided that ray tracing isn't necessary for games. Their major complaint was that the technique causes too much of a performance drop and not a huge visual difference for the most part to be considered feasible. In a similar report covered 2 years ago, poll results revealed that 50% of the participants implied that ray tracing wasn't worth it. Gamers in a different polls pointed out that ray tracing's application only looks good in certain cases, like Cyberpunk 2077. Still, developers have to consider it a core part of the game design rather than making it an afterthought. Despite ray tracing's huge appeal, a few pointed out that games can still look good even without such implementations. The likes of Death Stranding, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and Stellar Blade are proof that you don't need the latest graphical technologies to build a beautiful game. If anything, we won't see public opinion lean towards ray tracing anytime soon. Modern GPUs are already quite expensive and offer little to no performance improvement, so unless the hardware catches up, ray tracing is expected to remain unviable for most gamers. Okay, now the thing is, PC gamers. I'm gonna say, well, the thing is, I don't have that issue. I don't have that issue because obviously, PC gamers that who are able to play modern games are obviously not going to have that issue. But I wanna ask you this. Um, Look how well the Nintendo Switch has been swelling. I mean, has been selling, right? None of the games. I mean, it's pretty much, you could pretty much say it's on par with PS3 based PS4 visuals, as far as like the hardware in there, right? That and the thing is, the games didn't even need ray tracing whatsoever in the Switch, and look how well the Switch has already sold, and this is before the Switch 2 comes out. And I know, you know what people are gonna say. Oh, what about the rumored ray tracing that's gonna be in the Switch 2? Well, first of all, that's a rumor. We don't even know for sure. And second of all, even if there is ray tracing in the Switch 2, I don't think it's going to be in the way that you think it's going to be for the Switch 2. Because remember, when it comes to hardware and R&D, Nintendo likes to keep the cost as low as they possibly can. Because the thing is, there is no need to spend billions of dollars on R&D if you don't really have to, because it's all about making great games. Having the best visuals doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have a great game, because the thing is, if you have gonna have great visuals, but it affects the gameplay because affects gameplay because of performance issues, then is it really worth it putting stuff like ray tracing in there? It isn't. There is no need, and also, and unrelated, Nintendo doesn't even need, well, doesn't see the point of adding 4K. They don't see the point of adding 4K because the thing is, you don't necessarily, not every game needs to be a 4K game. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be 120 frames per second. even though it's 30, let's say a game is 30 frames per second, as long as it's a stable 30 frames per second all the way through. Because the thing is, I guarantee you that there's quite a few Switch games that are 30 frames per second, but the difference is it's a stable frame rate. If it's a stable frame rate all the way through, and then that's not really an issue. So the thing is, I mean, ray tracing. I don't think ray tracing is a necessity, just like it is said in this article, and it shouldn't be. And what I found, even when I play on my PS5, when I with ray tracing, right, I don't even put the performance mode on. I just put the